Welcome to the Maltepes Show, brought to you by Coffee of Gods. I am here with Brian McCafferty, my special guest. Brian has a story that will blow your mind, and he's working on a movie for that story. Screenplay for that movie is currently in Mark Wahlberg's hands and Sylvester Stallone. How's your day going, Brian?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, man. All right, so his story, there's two documentaries on your story, Body Snatchers of New York on Prime Video, The Body Snatcher, Michael Mastromarino on MSNBC show American Greed. Thousands of front page newspaper clips. The New York Times front page reads, "The story that rocked New York and shocked the world." Pulitzer Prize winning journalist William Sherman labeled this a monster story. New York Times best-selling author George Anastasia, who is an expert on the mafia, called your story Sopranos, Entourage, and 6 Feet Under wrapped into one. You told me that when you are done telling your story, the healthcare system will be damaged beyond repair. Multinational corporations who trade on Wall Street will be exposed, and nobody will trust the FDA or any government official again.
Correct.
You ready to dive in?
I'm ready to dive in.
Start at the beginning, man.
Yeah.
First of all, what exactly happened, and tell me how you grew up and how you got involved in all this and how this affected you, and just tell me a breakdown of your story.
Okay. So I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia. I'm the oldest of four. Okay. And it's a very tight-knit community up in Northeast Philadelphia, 60 homes to a block, Irish Catholic family. Okay. Predominantly Northeast Philadelphia is Irish Catholic. And we grew up in a funeral home. So, growing up in a funeral home, it's not like 6 feet under. We were like kind of the outcasts of the funeral industry. That's why when I met with George Anastasia to do a book deal, he told me when I spoke to my literary agent, I have Sopranos, Entourage, and 6 Feet Under wrapped in.
That's a big comparison.
He didn't know as a baseball agent at the time. He probably went through ballers in, which is pretty interesting. So, how do I start off? So, in my neighborhood, everybody, where I grew up, we had a huge backyard. Everybody played in my backyard. Baseball, basketball, hockey, football. My dad coached local baseball. But, growing up in a funeral home, you hate it. And there's three things that are consistent up in Northeast Philadelphia. There's a bar on every corner. There's a pizza shop. And there's a funeral home. Okay?
Sounds about right.
So we're like, it kind of sucked when we grew up because my dad was first generation. And unlike other businesses, if you have a restaurant, Italian restaurant, people leave there, the food's great, you got to try this place. Well, you leave a funeral home, it's like the worst day of your life. You don't go tell your friends, this place is great, you got to go there. Yeah, sure, I want somebody to die so I can go there. So we're only doing like 30 funerals a year. My dad's furious. It's funny because we used to say we had the cleanest clothes in the world. Because what would happen on Friday nights, my dad would get a case of Budweiser, go down the basement and be drinking all night during our wash, So anyway, it wasn't, growing up in a funeral home wasn't really, it's kind of crazy. We saw dead bodies all the time. It was no big deal.
Yeah.
And it's a huge Victorian mansion that I grew up in, okay? It's like probably 20,000 square feet. Right. And, but we didn't have central air. My dad couldn't afford to put central air through the whole place. So we used to have those
20,000 feet.
That's a lot of feet. Yeah, we barely could pay our bills. You know what I mean?
20,000 feet. Mansion.
Yeah, it's big. So, and it was great because we could sneak girls in the funeral home all the time because there were 6 different entrances. So I'll get into that. So, just give an example. Like every other your friend, you sleep over your friend's house once in a while. Well, we only had air conditioning on the first floor in the funeral home. So sometimes kids would sleep over our house and there'd be a dead body in the casket and they're walking to the bathroom. They don't know they're sleeping with a dead body. So it was a little crazy. A little odd.
To say the least.
And, since we're not doing any business, my dad, I come home from college my freshman year, and my dad says to me, you're not going down the shore. I said, what do you mean I'm not going down the shore? He said, no, I got a Mr. Softy ice cream truck. You and your brother are running the Mr. Softy ice cream truck.
You know what's funny? I have a friend, Nazir Al-Kazbari. He actually does the Mr. Softy trucks.
He does?
Yeah, he does.
That's pretty cool. So now you got a picture, get a visual of this. You got the funeral home. We're not doing any business. You got a Mr. Softy ice cream truck coming down the driveway around 12 o'clock. The music going do-do-do-do-do-do. And all the other funeral directors, they're driving big fancy cars. And we're broke, okay? So, and then we had a hot dog cart. So we have a Mr. Softy ice cream truck. We got a hot dog cart. And on top of it, we're selling used cars outside the funeral home. We get white shoe polish, write down how much we want, and our phone number. So everyone's kind of laughing at us, like, who's the funeral director with the Mr. Softy ice cream truck? And then, as we get older, we're all in college. My dad gets very sick. And then he dies. I'm 22. My other brothers are 20, 19, 18. And my mom's a widow at 49. And at this point, I think we did 33 funerals. So my poor mother, my dad got sick, he dies. My poor mother has these 4 maniacs that are her sons who, we're like normal people, but you don't act like that if you own a funeral home. You're supposed to act a little different. Well, we all bartended on the, we go out bartend at night, go to the after hours clubs, okay? Bring girls home. My mom would always do her like 2 to 3 a.m. sweeps. Sweeps. So we always know she was coming because the dogs be barking. And we'd be
alert system.
Yeah. So, there were times where she actually turned the lights on, there's a dead body in the casket, and you see 4 couples rolling around on the floor. It was pretty funny. So, we're trying to figure out how do we build this business up? So we said, okay, we're going to do guerrilla marketing. We're going to go door to door. And so we had a mail campaign.
So as the oldest, you took charge.
Yeah, me and my brother Jimmy. So we hired kids in 8th grade, paid them like $5 an hour every Saturday and Sunday, deliver 10,000 letters. And basically the bottom line, the letter said, hey, we're the good guys. All these other funeral homes are creeps. They're overcharging. We're a discount funeral home. You come to us, we'll only charge you $2,500. Well, it's like anything else. You get into the door, okay, this is the casket for $2,500. But hey, you want to upgrade? Okay, well then maybe the funeral's going to be about $8,000 to $10,000. So anyway, we're doing that. All the funeral directors are laughing at us. Now we go from 33 to 76, 152, to 230, which is impossible to do. Yeah. So now we're burying everybody. All right. But we did things like the guerrilla marketing we did. We would just go around, like a billboard's like $2,500 a month to $10,000. And you know Timmy Britt, who was a childhood friend who ended up becoming the most famous artist in Disney.
Disney, yeah.
He's an Imagineer and animated artist. We used to buy 4x8 sheets of plywood, and he would paint James McCafferty Funeral Home, and we would go around the city and bolt them onto like high traffic areas.
Oh, smart.
So we get free advertisement for like 2 to 3 months, and then the city catch up with us,
of course, and
they tear them down. And at that point, an average funeral was this. We all had black sunglasses on and Altoids because we're still drunk from the night before. And the only thing we cared about is when the family pulled up, if there were any hot broads, because then we want to help them in the funeral home. But we got a really good reputation, and it's kind of funny because there's a very famous priest, worked for my family, ended up becoming chaplain for the Flyers, and he ended up driving the Mr. Softy ice cream truck before he became a priest. Yeah. Matter of fact, one time we did a hit and run up on Academy Road. It's pretty funny. He has like amnesia about that event.
He has amnesia?
Yeah. He can forgive himself, but he did. He's a great guy, really good guy, good friend. So, we had a lot going on here. So as the funeral home business starts to build up, I'm in banking, and I stay in banking. I'm at Chase Manhattan Bank.
So you went to school?
Went to Drexel.
You went to Drexel.
And then when I got out of Drexel, I was a stockbroker. And then I started working for Chase Manhattan Bank, but I'm also helping run this funeral home.
Okay, so you're doing both.
Doing both, 7 days a week. So what happens? So I start doing really well, and my 2 brothers end up running the funeral home. And then my other brother, Kevin, he lives in Mullica Hill. He's one of the heads at Merck. He does really well.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, but Kevin bartended at the warehouse. I bartended 2001. We're at the beach club. We're at Egypt. We're all down the shore everywhere. So what happened is, at the end of the night, you get done bartending, you go out to the after hours club, you bring a girl home, and you have a good time. I'll tell you a real funny story. So my brother Jimmy, the balls of us, I swear to God, like the stuff that we would do was just crazy. I remember my brother Jimmy brings home a date, okay, and he leaves her in the funeral home. He's probably a little drunk, and he goes upstairs, and this girl's standing in front of the casket. She sees a dead person in the casket. She's crying. Okay, so my mom's doing one of her sweeps. She's got her pugs, and she comes down to the funeral home. She sees this girl in front of the casket like 3 a.m. crying. Like, who are you? What are you doing here? Then my brother Jimmy comes down, gets her, pulls her out the side, But there were times where, like, we would get phone calls, okay? One specific phone call, I'll never forget this. I got a phone call. My brother said, hey, these guys just got a tractor trailer of humidors. I take the hearse. I do 100 miles an hour. I'm not going to say where I went. Go down there. I pull up to the person's house. There's a lady outside, older lady, and she's blessing herself thinking somebody died. I open up the hearse door. I'm coming out with humidors, loading the place. I have to go back up now. Now, we're running a funeral. If I'm late with traffic, okay, what am I going to do? Pull up, and the family's going to see me taking humidors out so we can put the casket in? Well, I just get there on time. People still are outside, and they see me unloading these humidors into the garage. I take them into Chase Manhattan Bank. I sell them. And then we pull the hearse up, and we just go do the funeral. So this is just, and we grew up hanging out in Chicky and Pete's, which is a very famous sports bar, considered one of the top sports bars in the country.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Yeah. So we did, I'm not going to go into detail and admit to anything. We did whatever it took to get by, okay? And we knew everybody, okay? Joe Clancy taught me to follow the judge. He's the head of the Secret Service. The priest that I talk about, I'm not going to mention his name, but he's friends with Biden, okay? He's with the NHL substance abuse program he directs, and he's Andy Reid's best friend. So we knew everybody, and I'm not bragging about it, we did. So when you do a funeral, you're meeting 100 people. So my brother said, you're meeting new people, okay? It's like going like a sandwich shop, you know? It doesn't matter. If you have a good product, you meet anybody that's a regular Joe to a multimillionaire.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
For everyone out there that's watching and listening,
yeah,
so they have an idea. What is your story? Give me a sentence that describes your story. You had to.
A story that will shock the world.
The story that will blow your mind.
Yeah. So I'm going to get into it right now. And it centers around the FDA, illegal organ harvesting, the healthcare system. And the truth of the matter is, if there's one sentence, the story will shock the world, and there is no system in place to protect the American people.
And what did you guys, or what did your family, what did people you're connected to?
Yeah.
What did they do?
So I'm going to tell you what they did. So now I'm in banking. I'm at Chase Manhattan Bank. My two brothers are running the funeral home. My youngest and my other brother's at Merck. We're all doing really well. So we go from bankruptcy, making a lot of money. My mother a home down the shore, and my brothers are getting involved in different businesses. So my brother Jimmy ran a crematory for another family out in New York at the Frankfurt Business Arsenal. And some of his clients were two guys called Garzone. They were two brothers. And the Garzone brothers each owned their own funeral home. So the one Garzone brother came to my brother Jimmy and said, Jimmy, don't work for these guys out of New York. You know, Lou has a commercial building across the street from his funeral home.
Lou Garzone.
And he can get or has the zoning, okay, to open up a crematory. So my brother leaves the guys in New York, okay? They're creeps anyway. But he leaves the guys in New York, and he opens up a crematory, okay, with these two Garzone brothers, which is at Ruth and Somerset. So everybody listening, that's a very famous corner because that's where Sylvester Stallone shot all the Rocky Balboa movies in the bar. And as I showed you pictures. I was hanging out with Frank Stallone.
No, brother.
On the
Sylvester
set.
Stallone, yeah.
So, a real quick story to make people live. It almost sounds like a comedy so far. It's not a comedy. This is going to get very serious. But my brother at the Frankfurt Business Arsenal, this is how nuts my brother was. When he was running the crematory, he would have bachelor parties in the crematory, and you have to get by, and the police headquarters is right there off to the right, to detectives, and he would bust the girls in from one of the strip clubs, and they'd be swinging off the cremation ovens, dancing. Yeah, so we had a lot of fun. So anyway, he goes partners with these guys. They open up a crematory. They're doing great. Everything's going fantastic. He's rolling. They're the biggest crematory, arguably, in the tri-state area. They're doing like 2,500 cremations.
That's a lot.
2,500, yeah. It's about 8 a day. So like any other business, they have hours. You just don't cremate bodies 24 hours. You don't have time. So my brother wanted everything done professionally, okay? And he hired the right people. And nobody wants to work in a crematory. So my brother comes to me, he says, listen, man, these guys are driving me nuts. I go, what's wrong? He goes, the guys I had, and they're running it professionally, they would come to work in suit and tie. They just hired this other guy called Freddie the Chef.
Freddie the Chef.
Now, Freddie is running the crematory. Freddie lives across the street in an abandoned building, which I showed you a picture of. And he lives on the top floor. Now, Freddie the chef, who runs the crematory now, he has a weed farm on the top floor. So he's selling weed. And on the corner, why we called him Fred the chef, he has a hot dog cart. So you can imagine this. You get a line of people outside the hot dog cart where he's selling his hot dogs and hamburgers. And when he saw a hearse or a funeral home vehicle, which could be a van with dark windows, coming down the street, he knew somebody's dropping off a body. So he would run from his hot dog cart down to the crematory, get the body, put it in, go back up to the hot dog cart. Well, Freddie the chef was missing one time. And everyone's like, well, where is he? Well, the feds came and they got him. They arrested him because he was selling marijuana with his weed farm. All right, so after Freddie the chef, my brother says, Brian, you're not going to believe who they hired now. I said, Jimmy, don't you have some say in this? So they hired Bob the crackhead. Bob lived in an abandoned building down the street. And Bob, during the winter, would live in the crematory because he had no plumbing in his place. And he would sleep under the pipes. And in the morning, he would take his bagel and Chef Boyardee and heat it up in the cremation oven. And I'll say this about Bob the crackhead. I'm just telling you what my brother told me, that he would always be stealing shoes off dead people, like if they fit. So he's wearing jackets from other people. Like, the guy's crazy. So they fired Bob the crackhead because Bob's stealing people's shoes. Okay? And they didn't want him sleep in the crematory. So the next guy they hire, Hector on Ritalin. I call him, that's not his real name. I made that up, but I'm not going to say his name. He's a nice guy. He's still around. But so Hector, he's running the crematory one day, and he's helping run the crematory, and he comes, and he's dressed up in a suit. So my brother's business partner says, and this is on YouTube, by the way, this clip I'm about to talk about. Okay. So my brother's partner says to him, what the F are you doing? Why are you so dressed up? He goes, I'm getting in that movie. So Sylvester Stallone is across the street filming Rocky Balboa. So he says, you're getting in the movie? No, you're not. You go near that set, you're fired. He goes, fuck you, I quit. All right. Barges in, set, the cast, and he interjects himself in a scene, and Stallone comes walking in the front door of the bar, and he jumps up, hasta la vista, Rocky Balboa, and Stallone goes with it. So the director comes up to me and says to me after they're done shooting, who are you? I say, well, my name's Brian. She goes, okay, great. Who are you with? I said, well, my brother owns a crematory across the street. She goes, okay, you can stay, but, just let us do our job. And then she turns around to me real quick. She goes, wait a second. Do you know a guy, Hector? Yeah, he just barged in the set. Sylvester, she referred to him as Sly. Sly likes it. He may end up putting him in. Now, but the problem is, he's ordering everybody around in the movie set.
What, is he the director now?
He's got the director. So he gives me a copy of the script, like the scene I'm talking about. He gives me a copy of the script. I still have it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that just went on down there. So you got Fred the chef who's selling weed, has a hot dog cart around the crematory. You got Bob the crackhead who, you have a size 10 shoes, he's taking them from you, eating up his meatballs and Chef Boyardee. And now you got Hector on Ritalin who quit to get into the movie Rocky Balboa. So my brother's losing his mind. I'll never forget, though. I'm on the set. I'm standing next to Sylvester Stallone. And to my left is my brother's business partners. The one's completely gray, and the other one walks away from me in mid-sentence. And I say to my brother, Jimmy, what's wrong with your business partners? Because he's just standing there laughing, having a good time. He says, Brian, New York is coming. And I said, what the fuck is New York? So I didn't know. So we're going to back up. My brother there's a guy called Dr. Michael Mastromarino. There's 2 1-hour documentaries. He's a dental surgeon, Park Avenue. He wrote a book called Smile. He's one of the top, I forget what he specialized in, but he's one of the top in the country.
Well, he was a dentist surgeon, had his practicing rights taken away, right?
He had them taken away because what happened was with his dental practice, during surgery, he was doing drugs. During surgery, he was passing out on people and screwing them up.
So he was forced to surrender his license following a string of Demerol-induced antics at his office. He'd fall asleep while suturing a patient, collapsed coming out of a bathroom with his scrub pants down around his ankles.
Yes.
And once he left a patient under general anesthesia on the operating table, and a nurse found him on the floor of a bathroom with a needle in his arm.
So these people are going into surgery and they're coming out looking like the Joker. It was crazy. So he loses his license. So what he had relationships with bone tissue companies, okay, that sell tissue, ligaments to hospitals, okay. So he approaches these companies, okay? And he says, listen, no, because in dental, implants, things like that, a lot of them come from cadavers. A lot of people don't know this. So the tissue harvesting, the tissue business is a big, it's $1 billion business, okay? So he goes to these companies, he says, listen, I think I can probably help you guys out. Let me see what I can do. So what he does is, he starts knocking on funeral home doors. And he started a company called Biomedical Tissue based in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And he starts knocking on funeral home doors. And he had a lot of clients. He had like 20, 30. But this is how it would work. The funeral director would go to the funeral director. Mr. Maltepes, listen, my name's, he called himself doctor, even though he lost his license.
From a strip.
But he's not just anybody. This dude's tall dude, good looking. He was like the quarterback on the high school team, married his sweetheart, very, suave, $1,000 suits, drove the Mercedes. And he's licensed with the American Association of Tissue Banks and audited by the FDA. He's legit. It's like going into a lawyer's office. You see a lawyer's diplomas and you check with, Pennsylvania to see if he's in good standing. He was in good standing. So he starts knocking on funeral home doors and says, listen, if you have a family that can't afford the funeral, I will cover their costs for the funeral, and you, funeral director, I'll pay you $1,000 per referral. Okay? So it's like any other business, okay? But you have a podcast. If somebody calls you up and says, hey, look, I got a marketing company. I'm going to come in here, and I can get you thousands of subscribers. You're going to listen to them. So in the funeral industry, of course you're going to listen to anybody. You're going to listen to people, any of the products or services associated with the funeral industry, you'll take the meeting. So he starts doing business, like one here, one there. And before we go further, there's something people need to understand. In people that are organ donors, and these are the statistics, organ donors, only 4%, that's the number that's out there. Sometimes you see 3, 5, 6. On average, the number I've seen that qualify, okay, for organ donation, or to donate organs or tendons and tissue, it's about 4%. And why only 4%? Well, the other 96%, they fail the requirements, okay?
Unhealthy.
They're not healthy. It's the cause of death, okay? It's the age. It's how long that body has been in storage or
Rigor mortis.
Bingo, okay? So that's why it's only about 4%. So a body, back when this happened, they had a number about 250. I've heard numbers today, a body's worth about 500,000.
Well, I have here 250 to 500,000 today.
Yeah.
Before probably 100,000. I mean, go back.
Right. Let's say,
give example, it 15 years.
Well, that's an interesting. So that 250 to 500. Why there's a variance there? Because it depends on what you need and what kind of condition that body's in. But up to 76 people can be transplant recipients from one body. Okay.
Well, I actually have here. Give me a second. I have it somewhere.
I believe
bodies. So organs from one body can save 8 lives. A cornea transplant from one body can restore eyesight to 2 people. And tissue from one body can heal the lives of 75 people.
So it's if you go the whole body, you're looking more like 100. Yeah. And the amount of tissue transplant recipients every year is staggering. And it's, there's...
Well, the most commonly transplanted tissues are bones, tendons, ligaments, skin, heart valves, blood vessels, and corneas. Around 3.3 million tissue grafts are distributed each year. About 2.5 million grafts are transplanted.
Bingo. So the numbers are the numbers. And there's 5,500 hospitals in the United States, roughly. Think about that. So okay, so this guy is now Master Marino. He's coming down south, New Jersey, and now he wants to hit Philadelphia and start trying to get business. So he goes to the medical examiner, and I won't mention the guy's name because he denied saying it, but I know he said it. He said to Master Marino, listen, you need to meet this guy, McCafferty. He's got a funeral home up in Northeast Philadelphia. Now, okay. So Michael Mastromarino calls my brother. He says, I'm Dr. Michael Mastromarino. I was referred by so-and-so. And that's how I got my brother's number. So my brother says, oh, sure, I'll take the meeting. So in the legal world, there's a word called nexus, connection, core. So this is where the nexus starts with Master Marino and my family. They can use that word nexus to railroad anybody, Okay? Now, it's just like Trump. Trump has all these indictments. Okay, you're guilty. And people don't understand. An indictment, anybody can indict anybody. There's no jury. There's no defense. It's a joke. There's a saying you can indict a ham sandwich, okay? So anyway, my brother takes the meeting with Master Marino. I remember my other brother, okay, saying he saw him and didn't like the looks of him, okay?
He had a bad feeling.
He had a bad feeling. So Master Marino sits down. He tells him what he does. He says, Jim, this is what I do. If you have any families that can't afford the funeral, I'll pay you $1,000 and cover the funeral costs, but I need to harvest the body. So my brother says, listen, appreciate your time, but we don't really run into that often. He said so my brother turns him down, and this guy just stares at him like he's the devil. How dare you turn me down? Okay, so he said, well, do you know Master Marino says after like a pause, do you know anyone you could refer me to? He said, well, my two partners,
𝐒𝐴RZones,
one has a funeral home in Kensington, the other has in Juniata. They deal with a lot of people that don't have money. Okay, so he said, yeah, I'm going down. I partners in a crematory with them. His eyes light up. Crematory. Now it's unlimited supply.
Yeah.
Now he's going from funeral homes, New York, New Jersey,
Philadelphia, tri-state area.
He hits the jackpot because all these funeral homes might have one here, one there. So what happens is he said, well, do you mind if my brother says to him, look, I'm going down to the crematory right now. He said, well, do you mind if I follow you down? Yeah, no problem. Okay. So he follows him down. And he has a meeting with my one brother's business partner. So my brother has really no idea, what transpired. All he did is introduce them. But keep in mind, my brother's business partner, his funeral home is across the street from the crematory. Okay? So, late night, nobody's around, you can pull anything off you want. So just like every other business, though, let's say you close at 5 o'clock or you drop off a body, okay, you're not getting the ashes back today. We'll get them back to you in a day or two. So you would go into the crematory, there might be 10 bodies laying around. So when the workers come in the morning, they know, they got to cremate these bodies. And over the course of the day, other bodies will be dropped off. Of course. So my brother goes to a baseball game. It's, I want to say it was middle of April. And it's with his other partner, whose brother, his name's Jerry Garzone. And after the game, my brother drove down. Jerry left his car at the crematory. So my brother drives Jerry back to the crematory to get his car. And when he drives back to the crematory, he sees SUVs, tinted windows, and New York license plates. And my brother Jimmy goes, what the fuck is this?
What's going on?
He said, oh, Lou has a case. He said, a case?
What case?
What are you talking about? Yeah. You know the guy you introduced Lou to? Yeah. He said, well, you introduced him? Yeah. He said, Lou has a case for him. And he just stared. Jerry knew something was up. Knew something was wrong right there. Like,
felt it. Predictive indicators.
You don't want to see it, okay? So Jimmy was suspicious at that point. And in that crematory, probably 200,000 being coming through different accounts there. They have a crematory. My brother did work for other funeral directors. He did work for the Garzones too. He do bomb and bodies for them. And, they had another shell company, Affordable Cremation. So my point being is they have money coming from everywhere. So anyway, Lou gives Jimmy a check. So the first check that Master Marino ever wrote out to was to my brother. And my brother approaches Lou, says, what's this? He said, well, it's a referral fee from that guy, Master Marino. He goes, okay, look. And I have the check register to prove this. Now, I'm going to tell you, I didn't believe my brother when he told me. I was like, Jimmy, because I don't have all the discovery, all the evidence that they have against my brother. So I'm like, so my brother tells me, he says to his partner, Lou, listen, I don't want any parts of this, okay? Whatever you guys do is your business with your funeral homes, okay? Now, you and I are business partners, right? We own that crematory, but that funeral home, it's yours. I can't tell you what to do. It's your funeral home. And I can't tell your brother to do what is in his funeral home. Here's the problem. Bodies are coming through there, and then they go to that crematory. I'm in trouble now, too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in it with you. We're all in bed now. It doesn't matter if you make $1. You're in bed, criminally.
Yeah.
Now, what you don't know about is civil implications and all the different other areas that are going to come after you. All right, so my brother tells Lou, I don't care what you do, but don't fuck around, don't mess around with this crematory, okay? As long as, okay? So this is what happened. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is, these guys, this Master Marino had a team of, they called them cutters, okay? And they would drive down. They wanted to keep this away from my brother. So they would start doing it like at 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
And what'd they do?
Okay, Lou would make the phone call to Master Marino. Okay, I got 8 bodies in the crematory. 5, 10. You look at the check register, 1,000. You can see they were doing it when they had a lot. Not one. They would do it when they had like 8 stacked up. So the crematory closes. I'm assuming this is what he did. Goes over to the crematory, checks how many bodies are there. If it's enough, maybe 5 or more, pulls the guys in New York. They come down like a team of assassins in these SUVs, okay? And they take the bodies out of the crematory. They bring them over to the funeral home, walking across the street, okay? Right, taking these dead bodies, okay? Put them in the funeral home, and they would harvest them. Now, here's where it gets crazy. To harvest the body takes about 5 hours. It has to meet all these requirements, like we're talking about before.
Those parts are supposed to be harvested within 15 hours?
Roughly, yeah.
Is that true?
Yep.
Okay, and I have a question. How
Yep.
long for them?
Oh, God, it could be up to 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
3 or 4 days.
So, at that point...
Well, that doesn't even matter. Let me tell you why. So, to harvest a body takes about 5 hours. They would do it in 30 minutes. Now, this is the indictment. Now, everything I'm talking about, other than my personal experience growing up, this is a public story, okay? Like, it's already...
Well, it's been, I mean, this story, it's featured on the Philadelphia, Daily News, Philadelphia Inquirer, Philly Mag, New York Times, front page news.
Front page.
Front page, yeah.
This is the story that had to go away. This story, and I'll tell you why, was the President of the United States had to be involved in this story. Was on his board as the head of the Health and Human Services, and his job is to alert the President of the United States of anything that is of interest or problem that we have. We penetrate the whole healthcare industry, okay? You're talking about taking down Goliath. Not intentionally, they were exposed, which if we could do that, I mean, it's crazy. So they would pile these bodies up, okay? They would bring in chainsaws, bring in construction equipment, and they would go through these bodies like the scene from Scarface. I don't know if you've ever seen where Tony Montana's friend, they go right through the guy with the chainsaw. That's how they did it with the bodies. They didn't waste any time. They want to get in, get out, okay? So how did they pull this off? Master Marino had death certificates, okay? Oh, let me back up. I'm getting all over the place. So they should have had consent forms signed for these bodies. Now, these bodies just didn't come from the funeral homes. They came from all over funeral homes. So let's say you go to XYZ funeral home. They don't have a crematory. So they would use my brother's crematory. So they would type the body down there. So you have all these funeral homes, okay? They're taking bodies down there. They don't know this is going on. So now these bodies get taken from across the street in the crematory, taken over to the funeral home. These guys were so... Talk about the devil. There was something in the indictment.
Well, I have that. I have what they say. So in the 103-page grand jury report, they say word for word, for them nothing was beyond the pale, not stealing flesh and bones from the dead or lying to the bereaved, not forging and lying on thousands of documents, and not putting the public's health at risk.
It's worse than that. Let me explain. What they did to those bodies, how they desecrated those bodies.
Described as a butcher shop.
Butcher shop. A house of horrors. I think it's a macabre, a chamber of horrors. All right?
House of horrors. Chamber of horrors.
Yeah. Nothing was... Lynn Abraham in her press conference when my brother got indicted with these guys, it was mobbed. And she said, there is no punishment just enough for what these crimes are. Now, you're talking about Philadelphia, city of lawyers. There's a movie called...
Can you say that again? Nothing what?
There is no punishment just enough for these crimes. They wanted to put these guys away forever. Ever. Okay? And it was crazy. It was almost like they weren't even going to give them a trial. Like if they could have got them the death penalty, they would have done it.
So tell me, tell me the implications it had on Wall Street? Because you mentioned Wall Street.
I'm going to bring you up to there.
Yeah.
I want to
Continue.
So let's go back into the funeral where these bodies are being transported across the street into the funeral home and being chopped up. So there was a scene, or the way they describe it, that the two cutters would stick pliers into the bodies around the shoulders and race down the body and pull the skin down as fast they could. They would bed each other.
God.
So now let's go back to what percent qualify? Only 4% qualify.
4%.
Okay. So there's a dupe going on here. This Master Marino thinks my brother's partners are getting consent forms signed from these families. They never did. But then Master Marino's duping them. And I'll tell you how he did. Now think about this. They're like, fuck it, nobody's going to find out. Their bodies are getting cremated anyway. How's anybody going to find out? This is what he would do. There's two things Master Marino, when he would take all the body parts, the tissue, the ligaments out of these bodies, and he would take them back to his facility, and I forget what the term is, but he would get them ready, okay, to ship to the company he would sell them to. He sold to 4 companies. But before he did that, companies would require 2 things. 1, a blood sample. Number 2 would be a death certificate. Okay, so here we go.
I can already see.
It's doctored up.
It's all doctored up. All lied, forged.
All lied, and he would even sign his own name.
How about the blood samples?
He had what was called an OK bag.
OK bag.
Which was good blood. So he must have given...
Where did he get that from?
The only conclusion I can arrive at, which would make sense, he probably baited the companies because only 4% qualify. Under Michael Mastromarino, 95% qualify. So he probably sent... He probably did it... he baited them with blood, even though he doctored the death certificate up. He said, okay, let me send this body's blood up and see if it passes. If it doesn't pass, okay, okay, now he knows that blood's no good from that body. But I believe the only thing that makes sense to me is he found a body that had good blood, and he would drain the body like a real life Dracula.
Jesus.
So you could probably, I believe the numbers.
Dracula.
Yeah, this is like, it's crazy. So that's the only thing I don't know, but I believe I'm correct because you can get up to, I believe, 400 vials of blood from one body. Okay, so if I know one body's blood's good, okay, I'm going to drain the body. Now, these guys were such monsters.
They were taking tissue from people who were unsuitable donors, probably had hepatitis,
yes.
HIV, cancer,
everything. He would look at the death certificate. He would look at it and say, okay, this person's this, and I forget what the one cause of death is, but a lot of times he would put this one because it passed, and he would change your name. He would change your birth date. So he would change everything. So now this body goes back to the crematory. I don't even know. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know if these guys even knew who they were cremating the next day. Okay. So he would pile. Well, this is in the indictment, by the way. Okay. In the alley, the only way I can describe this alley that's in back of the morgue, it looks like something from Gotham, like these Batman movies where
Gotham City.
Okay. And this alley's really narrow. And they would open up the gate, and the bombing room door is right to the left, which had no ventilation. So you got a picture. They're chopping bodies up. Blood's going everywhere, okay? And they're in there, like with their suits on, and they're chopping these bodies up, and they're just piling the corpses on top of one another out in the alley.
So there was just corpses and corpses of bodies stacked on each other.
Yeah.
10s, 15.
Not 10 or 15. The check register, the most I ever saw. Like I wasn't there. I didn't see, but I read the indictment, which means they had to do it because what would happen is, I think the most I saw was a $10,000 check. So it tells me, okay, 10 bodies were chopped up.
Yeah.
Right. So how they stacked them, you probably could stack 2 or 3 or 4 on a gurney, maybe. So the next morning, okay.
I think I have something written from the grand jury report. To be honest, much of the work took place in Kensington, Philadelphia, where bodies were left on gurneys in a dingy alley behind the building. Yeah. There's body sat in the alleyway for days stacked on top of each other with no refrigeration.
These guys were monsters. That's not even, they're the devil. I mean, I swear to God. And how my brother got caught with this, I didn't believe it at first. I really didn't. Nobody would. And I didn't expect anybody to believe me when I'm telling this story because I wouldn't believe me. There's no way. So what would happen is they were paying off one of my brother's workers. And he would come early the next morning, and he would, picture this, it's 8, 9 o'clock, and he's wheeling a gurney across the street, several bodies on it, and blood's falling off the side. So when they cremated those bodies, now this guy doctored up his death certificate. I don't know where the death certificates were to these bodies, and I don't know, when they cremated those bodies the next day, how they knew who was who. So now, the funeral directors that are coming there, okay, or if they're going directly to the family, knows whose ashes they were. It's crazy.
So the families were getting random ashes.
They were getting ashes. They were getting ashes. I don't know if it was their loved one. I can't be certain. I mean, hopefully some got the right. It's not really funny, but I hope some got the right ashes. But you have
Most didn't.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So my brother comes to me, and what happened was the worker they had that was doing the work for them. I'm not going to say his name, but he ended up getting a plea deal. And he was also going to be a character witness for my brother. So my brother's the minnow in this. Now think about this. He's testifying against my brother, but at the same time, he's coming to my brother's sentencing to be a character witness for him. So my brother, I know something's wrong. And I say to my brother, Jimmy, something's wrong here. He said, Anthony quit. I said, okay, Anthony quit. What are you talking about? And my brother's business partner goes to my brother and says, hey, look, what did you do to Anthony? He quit today. He goes, what are you talking about? I got Anthony the job here. So my brother goes to Anthony's house. They go out for a beer. He said, Jimmy, listen to me. I got to tell you something. Chopping these bodies up behind your back. Okay? My brother goes, what are you talking about? And he tells him exactly what they're doing. And they're paying him a couple extra bucks to keep his mouth shut. And he said, they're a bunch of Frankensteins. That's what he called the guys from New York. He said, I can't do this anymore. And my brother, he said, well, you should have came to me. So my brother goes back there. He gets in a fist fight with his two business partners. They're brawling in the middle of the street. And the one business partner says to him, I think it's time we buy you out, Jimmy. So my brother thinks, okay, I'm just getting away from these guys. Now, the situation my brother's in, you can't.
You can't get away.
You can't get away. But my brother's not looking at this. In this situation, what you need is you need a top, not just any criminal lawyer, a top-notch criminal attorney. You need a civil attorney. You need a tax attorney, okay? And they need other people involved. So in a city of lawyers, this case, you had the biggest lawyers involved. We had lawyers working for us for free, and they're like the big hitters. And, you know, the only reason they couldn't directly help us in court because they had conflicts. So my brother goes to his business partners. he gets in a brawl. They agree to buy him out. Okay? So they're like, okay, I'm getting bought out. So this is what happens. Up in New York, there's a funeral home called the Daniel George Funeral Home. And Master Marino had what was called a secret room. It's all high-tech equipment in there. And he had on the first floor, he had a hydraulic lift. And would lift the bodies up into in this secret room. Okay? And he would have a board there. And on the board, he would have a line down the middle. Whole hog, which meant tear that body apart. Don't waste any time because it's not getting viewed. Or he would have another column that would say being viewed, which means go lightly. Because what they would do is, let's say the person, even though it's getting cremated, they want a viewing. So they're taking the person's bodies out, they're harvesting the body. Now up in New York, I don't know how he did with or without permission. I'm assuming without because I showed you the pictures where bodies were being exhumed from graves. Okay?
Yeah. We have all the photos, all the images, front page news. We have everything. And we will be showing you on the show.
So the Daniel George Funeral Home, the owner sells the funeral home to somebody. And somebody that was a previous client or buried their loved one there had a complaint. And they called, I don't know if it was Brooklyn or whoever they called up in New York. So somebody shows up, a detective shows up to follow up on the complaint and sits down and starts talking to the person that owns the funeral home. So apparently what Master Marino did was he knew the person that previously owned the funeral home, and when the person that bought the funeral home, the new person, Master Marino leased the back room from him. So the detective starts looking around, and she goes back into this room, and she called it a secret room, and sees all this high-tech shit. And she's like, she goes back to her boss and says, you know what? Something's wrong back there. I was in this funeral home. I followed up on this complaint. I got to tell you something, okay? Something's going on there because I just saw a room that does not look like an embalming room, all right? So they follow up on that complaint, and I believe Master Marino's paperwork was in one of the files. So then the Brooklyn DA's office gets involved, and they end up following the paper trail down to Biomedical Tissue Service, owned by Michael Master Marino, and in Fort Lee, New Jersey. So they go there, and they're doing, they raid his place. They do DNA samples, they don't match up. They start going through the paperwork with death certificates, and they're trying to figure out what's this guy doing. So they hire like an outside company to start going through this stuff. And they start calling the numbers on the death certificates, and one guy answers, pizza shop. Believe this?
Jeez.
So they start following up with the families, the loved ones. None of the death certificates match up. They realize what they're doing with the blood. So none of this, and they keep following Master Marino had all of his paperwork. So now it starts on the front page in New York. As a matter of fact, one person they chopped up was Alistair Cook, famous British broadcasting announcer. So now the paperwork leads down to Philadelphia. So Philadelphia District Attorney's Office gets this, and they get the heads up from New York, and they're all over it. Now keep in mind, gold mine's down in Philadelphia, because that's a crematory. Yeah, like 250 bodies got chopped up. 250 over a 2-year period. So they raid crematory, they raid my brother's business partner's funeral homes. They don't come after my brother. Okay? So they actually acknowledged that they knew Master Marino and they had done business with him. Okay? But when they raided my brother's partner's Garzone, he destroyed all the files. They couldn't find the files. They found like 40. So he said he had a flood, and all of his records are gone. So they must have got tipped off these guys were coming. So now they're on the front page of the Philadelphia Daily News, which you have all the newspaper.
I have all of it, yeah. Front page of Daily News, Philadelphia Daily News.
It keeps getting crazy.
I mean, this is on the front page of New York Times, front page of Philly Mag, Inquirer, every single magazine you can think of or news media outlet.
Yeah, so I tell my brother, I said, Jimmy, they're coming for you, okay? There's a reason why you're not in any of these articles in the Daily News. They're front page. We're front page newspaper. Front page Daily News is where my brother's partners were on, and his crematory. I said, why aren't you mentioned? I'll tell you what, they do their homework. They know your sister's a criminal lawyer. Sister-in-law's a criminal lawyer. They know you got lawyers. And they know you're they referred to my brother as the minnow in this thing. But he took that first check.
Yeah, so he's implicated.
He still could have got away. I'll tell you how he could have got away. That would happen. So even in the indictment, my brother this is really important. My brother goes and confronts his partners about what they're doing. Master Marino doesn't go back to Philadelphia about a month and a half. And his secretary said, what's wrong? You're not going to Philadelphia anymore. He said, no, they're fighting down there. Okay? I said, what are you talking about? They're fighting. So what they did was, the crematory is right across the street from one funeral home. They switched it. Instead of taking the bodies over to the other funeral home, where my brother would say it, they took it to my brother's partner's funeral, which is a mile away. My brother is driving by his other partner's funeral home over in Juniata. And he just had...
Philadelphia.
He had like a sixth sense about this, like something's up. And he looks he goes by the funeral home, and guess who's out there? He sees the SUVs with the New York plates. So they just switched it. So once Master Marino gets caught up in New York, it leads down to Philly, they stop. Okay, so now they're not buying my brother out. But even if they had bought my brother out, my brother still would have been in trouble. So he probably would, I think he probably would have, they would have gave him immunity, testify against them. They still got my brother to testify against them at the end. My brother messed up. About 4 months go by since my brother's partners are on the newspaper. Front page. And my brother drives down to the crematory. And after my brother told me this, I said, Jimmy, never let them know when you're coming, okay? Don't do it. So my brother would always park around the corner and never let them know. He wouldn't show up. He was scared because now these guys.
I don't blame him.
These guys got
How
millions.
could you?
These guys got millions of dollars too. And you know what? They know. I'm surprised that I thought they were going to get rid of him. I really did. Yeah, it's crazy. So, and I'll tell you, other people did too. Like one of the inspectors said, Jimmy, don't ever go down there again. Because you could throw him in the cremation oven and get rid of his body in 45 minutes and just throw the ashes on the street. So what happens? So it leads down to Philadelphia, and my brother unexpectedly goes down to the crematory one morning, and he sees his partner standing in the street with his back to him, and he sees Master Marino's Mercedes driving away. And my brother goes up to his partner. He goes, what did he want? He said, he warned me that they're coming down here. Okay, they're coming. Okay, which meant whether it's the feds or the police, they're coming because they raided my place.
Yeah.
So they had just raided Master Marino's place. So he came down, told these guys, you better have all your consent forms signed, which they never got one signed. And he said, well, what did he tell you to do? He said, blow up the crematory in your funeral home. Blow it up.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Blow it up.
He said, now my brother calls Master Marino up. What the F? What are you doing telling him to blow up the crematory and blow up the funeral home? He goes, Jimmy, I told those guys to get consent forms signed. They better have done it. Now, do you see? Master Marino's duping them, but then they're duping him. Yeah. All right? He's telling them, you better be doing the right thing. Yeah. And when he's doctoring all the paperwork and the blood, and okay, so now what happens? So about 3 or 4 months go by, and then Philadelphia District Attorney's Office raids my family's funeral home because the guy who worked for Master Marino, Lee Crescetta, okay, he copped a deal to testify, even though I think he did like 8 years. He testified against Master Marino for the Brooklyn DA's office in Philadelphia, and he said, it's in the indictment, first body they ever chopped up was my family's funeral home. It was a lie. It never happened, and it took 8 months for the judge to clear us. And I'll tell you what they did. Here's the bottom line. The district attorney is basically, you can't get them on defamation, or they're basically insulated. And we spoke with attorneys, and they said, you definitely can go after them, but it might cost me $750, and it's not worth it if I'm going to win $1 million. He said, but they got you. So they're immune from prosecution, basically. And it was Lynn Abraham. She had the biggest case in her life, okay? But here's the deal, what they did.
So explain who Lynn Abraham is.
Lynn Abraham was the former district attorney of Philadelphia.
I just make sure, so for everyone out there that doesn't know.
Yeah, so it's funny because I run into her all the time at Starbucks. And sometimes she doesn't even know. I introduced myself one time to her.
You did?
Yeah. I said, hi, my name's Brian.
Brian, you didn't say McCafferty. Exclude that one.
Oh, she would have stabbed me with like I'd be the first person murdered at Starbucks with like several plastic straws. So I say, my ex-wife worked for you.
You can have some coffee burns.
Yes. Oh my God. So I actually took a picture with her. I said, let's get a little snapshot together. I did. So anyway, I said, yeah, my ex-wife worked for you. Oh, what's her name? I go, Melissa Berlott. And my ex-wife is ranked as one of the best criminal attorneys in the state of Pennsylvania. She just won an award. So she's like, oh, okay. I said, yeah, I'm friends with George Schatzberger too. I know him. Oh, I love George. George ran homicide. He's a lawyer that ran homicide in the city of Philadelphia. She's like, oh, you tell. I said, do you mind if I get a picture with you?
At Starbucks.
And she has no idea. In my briefcase, I have the indictment with her name on it. And I used to go to Starbucks every morning and write this screenplay. Okay? Yeah. So I'm like, if
it all comes full circle.
If she knew who I was. I always want to sit down and talk to her because I think if my brother took this to trial and you took the emotion out of this thing, they could have walked. There's reasonable doubt or not.
So I have a question real quick. Yeah. How do you like the coffee? Coffee of Gods. Maltepes Show is brought to you by Coffee of Gods, the best damn coffee on the planet. Put lightning in your veins.
Tell you what, I'm a tough critic. This is the best coffee I ever had. It's good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Italian roast. Go and get that today.
That's your own coffee?
It is my coffee. As you can see, we have African Kahawa, and we also have
Where
Arabic
can I buy
coffee.
this?
Coffeeofgods.com. Go there today and buy your blend. We have different blends. We have Greek coffee. We have breakfast blend, Italian roast, African kahawa, as we said, Arabic coffee, and others. So make sure to check it out, coffeeofgods.com.
Fantastic.
Continue. I'm sorry.
I got a new coffee. So I hope I'm not all over the place. So
Yeah, you're good.
Because it's a lot.
It is. It is a lot.
So what happens? All right. I'm on. Okay, so now I know they're coming. And my brother's crematory is no longer doing any business because it's all over the newspapers. And let me tell you how nuts my brother's employees were down to his crematory. They thought they were like movie stars now. They start putting all the front page newspaper clippings all over the cremation oven. And my brother's like, this isn't funny. This isn't funny. But my brother's not in the paper. I'm like, Jimmy, we can get you out of this. So he keeps talking to my ex-wife. My ex-wife says, whatever you do, don't talk. They're coming. They're coming. And when they come, they're going to hope you slip up.
Yeah.
Talking to my brother's like talking to a wall. So I got a limousine out back in my family's funeral. I'm going to Yankee Stadium to watch the Yankees. My father-in-law's there. One of my friends is there.
So at the time, now where are you? You're an agent?
I'm a baseball agent. And I'm working at Chase Manhattan Bank.
Wow.
Sales director. So I used to be in charge of the hiring. So anyway, that's another story. But anyway, so I'm working full-time at Chase Manhattan Bank. I really don't know what's going on because my ex-wife's not telling me everything. You call her all the time. And I'm also representing ball players.
Yeah.
Okay? So, like I said, I know everything I've said up to this point, you're going to be like, there's no way. I have no idea what's going on. Because once again, how they do their business, these guys, you can't say anything. As long as the crematory is being run right. But now my brother knows what they're doing behind his back, and he wants to get away from them. And they're all over the newspaper, okay? So I tell my brother, whatever you do, don't talk. Try to get you a deal, all right? You testify against these guys. So these guys aren't stupid. Why isn't our partner, Jim McCafferty, in the news? Why are we just in the news? Why wouldn't they get rid of him? I would, or I'd think about it, because you're going to go to jail for a long time. You may never see your family again. So they come storming my family's funeral home. They raid it. A limousine out. I'm not there. I have my father-in-law, a friend of mine. I'm waiting for my brother Jimmy. My brother Mark calls me. I'm up around Chicken and Pete's on the Roosevelt Boulevard. Brian, get down here. They're tearing the place apart. They came, guns drawn. My mother is like a saint, right? She opens up the back door. They have their guns raised. The DA's got a gun, and they're tearing through the funeral home. They're taking everything out, all the records. They're going through everything. So I drive 100 miles an hour. I walk into my funeral home, out onto like the porch area. My brother's sitting down there talking to them. I go, what? I couldn't interrupt. The biggest mistake I've ever made in my life is not interrupting them and telling my brother, stop talking.
Shut up.
But you got to understand something. I don't know the process. Okay? I never asked. I was never part of it. So even though my ex-wife is a criminal attorney, I never asked her about the beginning or how people get in trouble. Like, okay, all I know is how you have to present your defense in court. So she would always run things by me. There's a form called a 301. So I believe it's 301. Okay? If it's not, I get the numbers wrong, but I believe it's a 301. So I'm listening to my brother talk to these guys. He admits he took money. Actually admitted that he took like $5,000. So he didn't understand what he was saying. He said, but you got to understand, these guys are doing this behind my back. I tried getting away from them. And they said, okay. They had 301 fax to the funeral home. My brother signed it. I said, you have no idea what you did. They never took another statement from him again.
They don't need to.
They don't need to. He just admitted. And he took
Compliance.
money. So now, some time goes by. This grand jury went on for a year. 1 year. I have all the grand jury reports.
Wow.
I look at the dates. Are these dates, is this possible? It went from like 2006 to 2007. Like June 2006 to July 2007. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. So just so you know, this is the way it works. If you're going to bring an indictment against somebody, okay, you have, it's called a quorum. That's enough people. So they may pick 25 people to be on the grand jury, but people can't always make it. And they knew the evidence that they were putting on, okay? They're trying to understand it themselves, how these guys pulled this off. They don't even know how far-reaching this is. Get into that. So they have a grand jury sequester. Nobody knows. Like, they're very tight-lipped with this grand jury. And then they start bringing in all the funeral directors that ever dropped off bodies to the crematory to be cremated. Okay? They're interviewing everybody, the heads of all these companies. and making them look like idiots. People, the head of the FDA, the head of American Association of Tissue Banks.
Wow.
And so this grand jury goes on for over a year. My brother gets wind somehow, because we know everybody, okay? Somehow we're going to know somebody involved. So they have a grand jury, my brother tells me. So, okay. So, well, I got indicted with his business partners and with Master Marino and all the other guys that worked for Master Marino. But we didn't know, okay, what was going on. So it's October 3rd, 2007.
Okay.
There's a window they have to bring this indictment, statute of limitations on it. I believe it's 2 years. And they did it right before that 2-year window. So they come to my brother's coming out his driveway. It's like a scene from The Sopranos to get the paper, like Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
And
Boxers goes out road.
Yeah.
Goes to the mailbox.
But so they have the whole area, like 10 cop cars are around. And the detective was Gibby Brooks, who was investigating my brother, coached baseball against my other brother. So the detective that arrested my brother, other brother knew. Lynn Abraham, my ex-wife, worked for. The attorneys that prosecuted my brother, my ex-wife knew.
So you guys knew.
We knew everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so my brother gets indicted. I forget where I'm at.
Your brother.
My brother Jimmy.
He went outside to get the mail.
He went outside. He gets arrested. He goes, "Come on, Jimmy.
Gets arrested.
You're coming with me."
Yeah.
So they bring him down to City Hall. My brother's one business partner's on the elevator with him. He goes, "What are you doing here?" I said it to him. That's what my brother told me. Like,
Yeah.
You're not involved in this. No, you don't understand legally how they get you involved. Because now, guess what? They got that 301 sign from my brother, which they never thought in a million years they would get signed. And the importance of that is we got him.
Yeah,
he's not gonna get immunity.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to sing like a canary in proffer sessions for us and tell us everything we don't know. And you know what we're gonna do in that indictment? We're gonna drag his family through the mud. My brother didn't own my family's funeral home. My mother did. Nothing's in his name. He owns the crematory.
Yeah.
But if you look at the indictment, okay, my brother had 1,500 counts against him in the indictment, which I showed you.
1,500.
Roughly 1,500. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So, where am I?
1,500 indictments.
They know in the indictment. I'll tell you, I know what they did. I don't know this for a fact. It's just common sense. You read the indictment. Okay, wait a second.
You put it all together.
I start saying, wait a second. They're claiming the first body got shot to my family's funeral home. My other brother's like, that never happened here. Because I'm here 24/7. I never saw these guys. You know what they did?
What?
𝐒𝐡𝐲𝐿, who worked for Master Marino, in the beginning of the indictment, they say they don't trust him. At the end of in the beginning of the indictment, 𝐒𝐲𝐿 says the first body got chopped up at McCafferty funeral. At the end of the indictment, they say we don't trust this guy, basically. Lied, or I don't know who lied. Somebody lied.
Of course.
Okay? But you know what? Now it looks like McCafferty and these guys are all in cahoots. 50-50. The public's not going to stop and say, wait, 248 bodies are chopped up. One is alleged at McCafferty, and the other 247 or whatever it is are down. No. They're all in it, man. Okay? So that's the picture they painted. Pictures of our funeral home, everything.
Destroyed your business.
Destroy our business. I'll never forget. So my brother gets
So it was called McCafferty Funeral Home, right?
James McCafferty Funeral Home.
Yeah.
Now, it's a famous funeral because we buried Harry Callis.
I know.
It's the biggest funeral in the history of Philadelphia. That's even crazier. We're accused of this. How do we do this? And then we're in 3 books. It's something's wrong. People aren't stupid. They see through the nonsense. And I got to tell you, the neighborhood took our back. 50%. There were fights in bars over this.
Well, I did see some reports. I mean, when you go through all these different articles, there's a plethora, so many different articles and stories on what happened. And some of them detail how the neighborhood backed you guys up, saying these are great people. Yeah. They would never be involved in this type of vile acts, these type of vile acts.
Yeah. I mean, we're no different than everybody else. Just happen to be in a funeral home. Yeah. It's all right. You know what I mean? So, so my brother gets indicted. Now they have all the press there, right? And it's funny, there's a news reporter from Channel 6 comes up to my brother. Mr. McCafferty, is there anything you wouldn't do for money? He goes, yeah, your wife. Right? That's pretty funny. Yeah. So now I'm sitting in my funeral home, my brother, and we're looking at a body. There's a body in the funeral home. It's just a police officer. And at this point, about to go from 250 funerals, probably to 750. Everyone's coming to us, okay? And that was the trajectory. So anytime a cop got shot, they're coming to us. And
Okay, so you guys were on a trajectory
I believe
for...
so. But probably, well, my brother owns that place now. He's doing over 400.
Okay.
Or 40.
And then when this happened, where you're plastered all over media,
Yeah.
how did it affect your business? I can only assume,
I can't,
but do you know?
I'm going to say millions. I can't, there's no way to prove it. It's
course.
just you add some common sense.
Of course.
But here's the thing. We still did at least 150. So what happens is, in a bad situation, you figure out how to survive.
Disadvantage to advantage.
But my brother, they figured out how to generate business otherwise. How many bodies, people we saw names in the paper all the time, families we know. Yeah, all the time. And it hurt, man. It hurt because they made us look like, and they say, I'll give the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office credit. They won. They won.
So let's get back to the case, right?
Yeah.
How did that?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
How did that proceed?
Okay, so now my brother's indicted. Now I'm in the funeral home.
1,500.
I'm with my brother. We're looking at this body. We just got this police officer in that just got murdered. Okay, and the family calls right after the news breaks. Body out of there. Took it to another funeral home. So right there, we're like, we're in a lot of trouble. I had friends to this day. One of my friends, Dave Young, he saw it. You got to understand, this is all over the news. Every talk show, everything.
I know.
A friend recently told me, he said, Brian, when I saw that happen, I said, there's no way they're surviving. They're done. So the neighborhood took our back. It's almost like kind of like a Bronx tale, you know, where you grow up in the neighborhood and people know you. You can't get away with anything, whether it's Upper Darby, Northeast Philly. They know who you are. Okay?
Tighten it.
Yeah. So now my ex-wife and I are arguing, and my brother's indicted. They're talking about the bail being $7 million apiece. O.J. Simpson was $2 million. $7 million. And the guy that was the head in charge of the, I forget the term or the title, but in charge of bail, we knew him. And he was running around going crazy because his wife just had an implant. Okay? So now what happens is my ex-wife and I are fighting. I say, okay, we got to go to my brother's bail hearing. And we didn't know about the $7 million until later. We had no idea what his bail was going to be. So my ex-wife says, well, I'm going out to happy hour. So you're going where? I got to do my brother's bail hearing. She goes, don't worry about it. I'll be there. She comes in. She's got a couple drinks in her. She goes down. She's a real pretty woman. The judge loves her. So anyway, they had the two guards, my brother's two business partners at $2 million. My brother's at $1 million. Like cooler heads prevailed. Okay, and she ends up getting my brother's down from $1 million to $500,000. Okay,
half.
And as a result, the Garzones, they go from $2 million apiece to $1 million. So now I put my brother's bail money up. We get him out, and he has no idea what he's about to read. He reads the indictment, bring him home. I picked him up on State Road. I saw his two partners. I wanted to kill them. And his one partner apologized to me. I said, it's too late, dude. So
damage is done.
It's
irreversible.
I don't know where this is going to go. Yeah. All right? Like the tidal wave this is not a tidal wave, it's a tsunami. All right? I don't know what tsunami's been. But so my brother goes home to his home. He reads it. He takes a baseball bat to his oven and starts smashing it to pieces. And he's going nuts because he doesn't understand. Because here's what happened. The bodies that were illegally harvested, it's basically an international crime ring. The bodies that were harvested were implanted in over 23,000 people. So the FDA, once they found out about this, they sent out a memo immediately. Every hospital does tissue transplants, bone transplants, organ transplants. That if you bought any from these 4 companies that Master Marina sold to, stop, don't implant this tissue. So it's not like they said, like I had told you before, it's not like, okay, on October 1st, we're going to send you a memo. No. This was a 911. Yeah. So you had to imagine.
Emergency broadcast.
It's like a fire in a house. You had to imagine the chaos in these hospitals. You had to have people being wheeled in, or in the operating room, where they're banging on windows. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, how about the patients that come out post-op? It's too late. We just might have implanted something in you. So now all 23,000, 24,000 are notified. Now they have to get tested every 6 months.
Yeah.
Now a couple people died. One guy died up in Minnesota, and a guy died down Texas. So now they're trying to bring murder charges up against my brother. My brother wasn't really telling me everything. He said, yeah, and it got shot down. They couldn't do it in Texas. All right, so now my family has to survive, which we did. And my brother now has to, he's indicted. So, and I don't have the discovery. So once I get the discovery, I'm going through all this. I said, Jimmy, there's only $1,000 in your name. You admitted to taking 5. You crazy? He said, because there's so much money transacted down there, he really didn't remember, but he didn't realize what he did. He said, Brian, if there's ever one thing I should have done, I should have listened to you. I should have never talked to him. Because you would have got immunity. You would testify against him because this case couldn't go to trial. Okay, but once they knew they had my brother, they knew they were going to take down everybody because they were looking to put these guys away for life. So what happens? So now my brother's going through all these proffer sessions. He enters a plea, okay? And as a result, my brothers, everyone else, police. So at the plea, now a plea deal, a lot of people don't know this, but basically what a plea deal is, if you take something to trial, let's say a district attorney offers you 5 years. You take it to trial, they're going to try and put you away for 15 to 20. You want to know why? Because you're wasting the taxpayers' money now. Yeah. We got to put this trial. You're wasting
their time.
Yes, right. So on a plea deal.
Don't hold up the system.
Yeah, on a plea deal, they wanted, for my brother's partners, 20 to 30 and 30 to 50 on a plea. Okay? My brother, they wanted 7 to 10. So my brother ends up getting sentenced to 3. His partners get sentenced to a hard 8, which means I think they weren't eligible for parole until after 8. I think they're out now. I think they got after 10 or 12 years. Master Marino, he ends up dying in jail.
He died at 40, what was it? 59? 59 years old?
I'm not sure. But yeah, he
around
died.
50, something 50 years.
Yeah, he died. And then, that's just how it went down. But in the proffer sessions, they told us, you tell us everything we don't know about these guys. And these are bad guys. Like, they're the type that they pick up a dead body from a house, his partners, and they go back and rob the house. Yeah.
So I have a question. Today.
Yes.
We all know illegal harvesting. It's $1 billion industry.
Right.
Right. What do you think, or how do you think that market has moved, and what is going on right now as we speak?
It's impossible to audit. I think it's still going on because it's greed. Just like in Wall Street, greed is good. There's too much money at stake. Only way, I'm going to say it's definitely going on, because these companies that are selling to the hospitals, if they have subsidiaries and they're not in the United States, they're shipping this stuff, they don't know. So it's the only way to find out that what I'm saying, I'm saying it's 100% still going on. It's a question, how's it going on?
At what level?
These hospitals don't know where stuff's coming from. All they do, it's like this. You get an Amazon package delivered to you. You open it up, use it. So what you have to do is you have to go to a hospital, okay? And they could never prove me wrong. I have to go to, let's say, University of Penn. I'm going to go to University of Penn. I'm going to say, okay, I want 1,000 records of tissue transplant recipients. I want to do an audit. Why do you want to do that? We have to get our patient's permission to do this. Okay, I want to see if that tissue, I'm going to follow it back to the cadaver and every level it went to before implanting that medical patient. We're never going to do that.
Of course.
We'll have lawsuits. It'll be crazy. Yeah, so you can't prove it, but they can't prove I'm wrong because they have no. Here's the problem. The hospitals got completely exposed. They don't audit this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
If they audited it, they would have caught it. And then the company, now keep in mind, this company, they know the statistics, only 4% pass. They used to say, oh, this Master Marino's got good stuff, 95% pass. Oh, you don't know something's wrong?
Come on.
All right? And how did Master Marino figure out how to do it? Well, he needs the bodies. There's no way it's not going on. It's impossible.
It's insane. So
you look at, like, right now, okay, with Ukraine, okay? We're hearing all this money the United States, the taxpayers are funneling over there, that it's being, and equipment's being sold on the black market and stuff like that. A body's worth from $250 to $500. I don't think they're doing it. Of course they're doing it. Now, listen, hospitals don't care. I'll tell you why. Because, hey, these guys are audited by the FDA. okay, and licensed with the American Association of Tissue Banks. They're reputable. No? No? I mean, listen. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right now, this story is in the hands of Mark Wahlberg and Sylvester Stallone, correct? Screenplay?
I sent this screenplay to Eric Weinstein, who's Mark Wahlberg's assistant. He hasn't gotten back to me, and I had sent it to Sylvester Stallone's manager. Okay? They haven't gotten back to me. I'll tell you a quick story. I'm on the set of Servant, okay? 𝐿 directs it. And I'm talking to his right-hand person, Ashwan Rajan. They're partners, okay? And I showed him the newspaper clippings. I told him the story. Now, this is M. Night Shyamalan's right-hand man. He said, but Brian, this isn't a true story. I'm showing you the newspaper clippings. I show you everything else. I mean, people aren't listening. So I have a guy up in New York at Morgan Stanley, and he has access to financing, and I'm looking for somebody to back this or to do it, to direct it. I'll tell you, I love is Rob McElhenney. Trying to get in touch with him, but it's very difficult today. It's almost impossible to get it done. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I hope coming on here, talking about it, and your story and your family's story, you can get it out there. We can get it out there and get you the ability to, get that steam. And I hope everything goes well. And this is an insane story, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a horror story. It's not. If you read the first 15, 20 pages, it's kind of hilarious. I can tell you a quick story real quick. Like we grew up and we're always having a good time. So, the beginning of it's like almost like a comedy where it's a good family. We all supported my mother, okay? We're all really tight. We're a million friends. I mean, you knew all the girls in Northeast Philly, at one point, a lot of them, if they're good looking, woke up at the funeral home. They ran out the side door. But we knew a lot of people. We're always giving back, still to this day. My brother's very successful. We would never take part in something like that. But the story is, how does a family get drugged to its knees and we survived? It's kind of ironic. Rocky shot across the street, right? Because it's not how hard you get hit; it's about how hard you get hit and keep going. Moving. That was us. This is how they came after us. I'm not even done with this yet. They came after us. Okay, a bail hearing. At least $5,000. Some guys won 15. My ex-wife did it. An indictment. They indicted my whole family with that indictment. It just wasn't my brother. 2,000 civil lawsuits. They brought forfeiture against the funeral home. They came after my one brother for something else, and he had to hire an attorney. And then the IRS shows up at our door one day. They went through my mom's personal bank accounts. And the lady, my mom has cancer at the time. My mom got cancer through this whole thing.
Wow.
So they show up at our door, and the lady's really nasty. And my mom, she started putting money, it's a long story, but she started putting money in her personal account. She didn't tell the accountant. So they came up. She goes, "You're lucky I'm not throwing you in jail," to my mom. "Oh, do you think it's a coincidence the IRS showed up at our door?" And they went through. So they have access to everything. They're going through with or without your permission. Now, I don't know how they do that. But the IRS said, "Okay, you owe us $120,000. We want it right now." Like, no payment plan, no nothing. Okay? And we're like, are you kidding? So crazy just becomes normal. I mean, when you turn on the TV and Nancy Grace is talking about you, you see Cold Case, they're talking about you. You're like, oh my God, you don't even watch the TV. Like my nephew, he's up in Wilkes-Barre. His friends are like, "Do you believe these guys? These guys are crazy." And he starts laughing. He goes, That's my
family.
That's my uncle's family. And but growing up, man, we had a lot of fun, man. But I'll tell you, I'll just give you one story. So I used to take up the collection church. And Mr. Gruffy, I don't know if you ever saw the original Eagles bus on Torresdale Avenue. He was the first one ever did a tailgate. He had the Eagles bus on top of his place called Panorama. So we take up the collection together. He's a real Italian guy. And he whispers in my ear, and I'm looking at the altar. He said, "Did you hear about your brother?" I go, "My brother?" I go, "Which one?" "Kevin." I go, "What's up with Kevin?" "He ran through Carmen Seafood in Seattle nude last night." You know what I mean? It's just like, it was we didn't care. I mean, we had fun, but it was like, I don't know, it's kind of harmless fun. You know what I mean? But you wake up and you're accused of the worst crimes in American history. There are people interviewed that said these are the worst crimes in American history, and you're trying to tell people, no, we didn't. Don't listen to front page newspaper clippings and the documentaries and all these talk show hosts. Listen to us. It's kind of tough thing to sell.
Yeah.
And plus, oh, by the way, all our funeral home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand totally.
Yeah, the only reason my brother survived in jail, they thought he was like a real life Hannibal Lecter. Used to laugh about it.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that's kind of the story. I mean, the title of the screenplay is Ashes, and I wrote it. I wrote it with my ghostwriter, who was outstanding, and it's a whirlwind. But the bottom line is that these hospitals today, you don't know where the stuff's coming from. The FDA doesn't police anything. Okay, they're reactionary. They don't police anything. And that's about it. We survived at the end. We survived. I don't know how we survived. Even George Bichetta, who father knows, who's the boxing commissioner, he's a big-time lawyer, he said, how are you guys still in business? This is impossible. Nobody thought, you guys are done. It's over. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you wake up.
Bounce back. That's life, and that's great. Your family, you know, went through hell, got drugged through hell, and now you're coming back. That's a credit to you guys and your, you know, your endurance and your vigor and your ability to keep going.
Well, here's the thing after this whole thing, after my brother went to jail. So my brother goes to jail 2008. Now, we thought the worst isn't over. Attached to 2,000 civil lawsuits. So my ex-wife has taken everybody on in federal court. All these lawyers, and she won a landmark judgment, which means they had to settle. Otherwise, we would have lost everything. We would have lost everything. So when you go in business with somebody, you better get an attorney.
Well, pay attention to Ashes, screenplay movie coming soon that's currently in the hands of some big people that he's going to be able to make, and it's going to be called Ashes, correct? Any other working titles? No,
there's the two. Let me just say something. They want the movie. They want the movie because there's two 1-hour documentaries. Everyone's rushing because they don't know the story. We're the story in back of it about how this family got drugged through mud and survived. The only one that's still in business is us. It was my brother. My brother, he does fantastic. But how we survived, it's impossible, but we did. You know? Yeah. So the real story hasn't been told. So it's told through my eyes. Growing up, to my family.
The original story.
The original story. People don't know the story.
Yeah. The original story. Pay attention. Ashes. Thank you for coming on, Brian.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on to the Maltepes Show, brought to you by Coffee of Gods. I think we can wrap it up here, right?
Yeah, coffee's fantastic. I'm going to take this bag to go with me.
My man. Thank you guys so much for listening.